I can't buy the air I breathe. I can't buy the trees. I can't buy the deepest seas. But it don't matter, 'cause they're there for free.
Hello and welcome to Around the World in 88 Tales with me, David Heathfield, as always in the Royal Albert Memorial Museum. But today, very exciting, for the first time with a live audience. Hello everybody, it's fantastic. You've got a live audience in the space. And I've been coming to the museum all my life and I love world cultures. It's probably the part of the museum I've spent most time in my years of coming here. Even many years ago, I worked as a part-time member of the education team. So I'm feeling very at home in the World Cultures Gallery here. And I'd like to say hello to a dear friend and a wonderful storyteller, Aleydis Delforge in Belgium. Hi, Aleydis, how are you?
Hi, David, I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, well, all well. And so you're in Belgium, just here, not
That's
very
right.
far away. You're one of the closest people to the UK that we've had as part of the project.
Sorry.
We're in Exeter in the southwest.
Not very exotic, I'm afraid.
It's beautiful. So, Aleydis, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your interest in storytelling, and why you're interested in being part of this project?
Well, I'm an English teacher here in Brussels. I teach English to adults in a school for adult education. I did a storytelling course about 8 years ago with Nick Bilbra. And I remember you came to tell us some stories and teach us how to tell stories. And after that, I did another course, an online course with you 2 summers ago. And not so well, last week we finished
That's right.
another course together. So, and I'm really interested in storytelling, and I would like to tell more stories in my classes and use them as a way to encourage students to speak.
And it's wonderful having you on the courses that we've done together. And I'd just like to say hello as well to the audience on Facebook Live, whether you're watching this live or catching up on Facebook or on YouTube later on the playlist, which is here forever. Please do tell us who you are in the comments, where you are, and feel free to join in and comment on the stories. So, ladies, without further hesitation, let us look at today's artifact. Where did I put it? Oh, here it is. Here is a bowl, and it's a wonderful bowl. It's, as you can see, it's made of a dark wood and perfectly round with a rounded base. And if you look closely, you can see there's a sort of beveled pattern, the smooth inside, and there are score marks pattern on the lip of the bowl. And this is actually a bowl that we're almost certain comes from Sudan, from the Nubian people, and I'm going to place it here. So whether this bowl might be used in ritual or for food, it's from the handling collection, so there's not as much information as with some of the artifacts, but that's the reason I can handle it. So, Aleydis, I'm going to tell you a story, and afterwards, would you tell a story?
With pleasure.
Okay, so perhaps I'll begin. This is a story from India, a story that fits the time of year because Diwali has just happened, the festival of light. There was once an old man who was so poor he had nothing, no food, no land, just a little shack to live in. And this old man became so hungry, and Diwali was coming, and he thought he would go to the temple of the goddess Parvati and ask for help. So he set off on a long journey, and it was night when he arrived at the temple. and the temple doors were already closed. But there outside the temple, he prayed. And inside, Parvati spoke to her followers, "Let the old man in." And he was brought inside, and Parvati listened to his story, and she said, "Take this bowl. Take this bowl and ask for whatever food you need, and it will be given. But don't ask for more than you need." And the old man took the bowl, and he left the temple, and he returned home, and he asked for some food, just some rice. But as soon as he asked for the rice was there, provided in the bowl, and he ate his fill. And the next day, he asked for some dal bhat, some lentils, and the lentils were there. And the next day, he asked for some spiced vegetables, and they appeared. And Diwali was coming closer, and he thought, this gift is too much for an old poor man like me. This should be available to the Raja. So he left the bowl at home and he set off for the Raja's palace. And when he finally got there, the guards laughed at him. "You cannot come before the Raja, an old beggar like you. But I want to extend an invitation to the Raja for the feast of Diwali." Finally, he was brought before the Raja himself, who sat with his advisor. And the Raja said, "You invite me to a feast for Diwali. What could you possibly offer me?" And the man said, "You can eat whatever you wish. Whatever you ask for will be provided." Well, the king's curiosity was piqued, and he thought, "I will go." The advisor was not so keen on the idea and followed the old man back to his home and saw no preparations in place, no equipment with which he could cook such a splendid feast as was fit for the Raja at the feast of Diwali. He returned to the king. The Raja advised him not to go, but the Raja insisted that he would. And when Diwali came, he came with his advisor and all of his guards in their finest uniforms to the old man's home. And there was no smell of cooking, no sign of activity. And the old man welcomed the Raja and sat him down and said, "What is it that you would like to eat for your feast?" "Well, you say I can have anything I want." "Yes," said the old man. "Then I will have a spiced vegetable curry." And immediately the old man came out with the bowl and the curry was served, and however many guards there was enough for them to eat. "What else do you want?" And the Raja thought, now perhaps I could ask for something finer. And I'm going to turn now. What would you ask for? A wonderful Indian dish that you would choose. Call it out.
Almond sauce.
An almond sauce with a chicken. And the chicken was provided in the bowl, and the most delicate almond sauce that you have ever tasted. And what else?
Brinjal bhaji.
Say it again.
Brinjal bhaji.
Brinjal bhaji. A brinjal bhaji of the most exquisite quality. And they ate and they ate and they ate until they were full. And the Raja had to say, "This is the finest feast I've ever had. This bowl is not fit for an old man like you." "Oh, of course," said the old man. "Take it, O great Raja." And the Raja took the bowl and left for his palace. Well, the next day, the Raja brought the bowl out and asked it for the most exquisite food again, more than was needed. And as you can imagine, the bowl was empty. Well, soon the bowl was forgotten, put aside, left in a storeroom with other discarded treasures. And that old man became hungrier and hungrier and once more suffered, and a whole year had passed. And the feast of Diwali was approaching, and he set off, for the temple of Parvati. And there outside the temple, he prayed. And soon he was let in, and Parvati asked him for his story, and he told her, "I have no bowl for you, old man, but take this stick. What does it do? The one who holds it will find out what they deserve." Well, he took that Stick returned home and went straight to the palace of the Raja. Come again, Diwali is coming. And the Raja remembered the most wonderful feast he had ever tasted. And against the advice of that advisor, he went with his guards the next day, and he came to the old man's house, and the old man brought his stick and said, here it is, here it is. What is it? And the Raja took the stick, and immediately the stick flew out of the Raja's hand and spun around his head and began to beat that ruler on his back, on his head, on his backside. He leapt in the air, and the stick wouldn't stop beating him. Oh, stop this, stop this. But the old man didn't know how. Perhaps the bowl? And guards were sent to find the bowl. It took them a long time. It was so long discarded. But when they returned, that Raja was beaten black and blue. Oh, stop this. But when the old man held the bowl, the stick fell to the ground. Oh, I have learned my lesson, said the Raja. I have learned my lesson. I took too much. Old man, will I be forgiven? Of course. It is the festival of giving, the festival of light, the festival of Diwali. Stay. And the food that was asked for was modest, but so delicious and fit for a Raja, his advisors, and all of his guards. And they left the old man in peace, and he never asked for more than he needed from that magic bowl. The bowl that was provided at a time of need by Parvati. Thank you very much. Thank you. And Aleydis, there's the story that I wanted to share. This bowl doesn't come from India. It comes, as I said, almost certainly from Sudan. But this project is all about being inspired by the artifacts. And now, Aleydis, you're in Belgium. More people have joined. Aleydis, please, would you tell us a story that comes to your mind?
With pleasure, David. Well, first of all, this bowl made me think of something very feminine, because it's curvy, and also because I think it's a motherly symbol too, because it's something you put food in to feed your family. And your story has also reminded me, your story and your shirt, by the way, have reminded me of an Indian story I learned not so long ago. It comes from a book called Feminist Folktales. And this story is called Kamala and the Seven Thieves.
Please tell us the story, Aleydis.
Yes, okay. Well, in a Punjabi village in the north of India, there lived a woman named Kamala. Her husband was a barber, but he was the kind of man who would rather sit and gossip with his friends than practice his trade. So, of course, they became poorer and poorer until there wasn't a penny left in the house. Business has been very slow, said Kamala's husband. But Kamala said, this may well be, but I don't intend to starve. The Raja is holding a big wedding feast at the palace. You must go and ask him for something. He won't be able to refuse you. It would be bad luck on such an occasion. Okay, sighed Kamala's husband, and off he went to the palace. But when he was brought before the Raja, he was so dazzled by the brilliant silks, the sparkling jewels, the big feathered fans moving to and fro, that he couldn't think clearly. And the thought of food simply flew out of his mind. Speak up. What do you want? Said the Raja impatiently. Anything you don't need, stammered Kamala's husband. I have a question for you, David, and for everybody who's listening. What do you think the Raja gave Kamala's husband?
Something he didn't need. What could it be? One of his wives, says Marion. Another idea? Call out. An old pair of discarded shoes?
Mm-hmm.
One more idea? A bowl with a hole in it.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you for your suggestions. The Raja said, give him a piece of wasteland near his village. Kamala's husband was relieved. He was relieved that his ordeal was over, and he walked back home. When he arrived, Kamala's pots were ready. Wasteland, she said. How am I going to cook that for our dinner? What good is wasteland unless we plow it? And how are we going to plow it without an ox or seeds to sow? Kamala was desperate. But she was also a resourceful woman, and she thought of a plan to make the best of their situation. So David and everybody else, what do you think her plan was?
I think she's pretty smart. I mean, what ideas? Sell the land. Did you say sell or sow? Sell. Sell the land because it's wasteland, I guess. Yeah. Another idea?
People to work on it. Attract other people to work on it.
Attract other people to work on the land.
Mm-hmm.
Any other ideas? Magic beans.
Oh, I've heard that before.
Tell people there's gold in the land.
Chris says, tell people there's gold in the land.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, somebody's very close. The next day, Kamala took her husband to the piece of wasteland, and she told him to imitate her. All day long, they walked around the field, peered anxiously at the ground, and poked it with a sharp stick. But as soon as somebody came, they stopped. They sat and pretended to do nothing. But this strange behavior caught the attention of two thieves who were passing by. They summoned the rest of the gang, and all seven of them hid behind a bush to observe Kamala and her husband, because they were sure something mysterious was at hand. So all day long, they observed Kamala and her husband. And they decided to send one of them to try to find out what was going on. So one of them went to talk to Kamala. At first, she pretended to be evasive. But then she said, "It's a family secret. You must promise not to tell a soul." Of course, the thief promised eagerly. Kamala said, "Well, we've learned that 5 big pots of gold are buried in this land. And we're trying to find the exact spot before we start digging tomorrow morning." The thief ran back to his companions and told them about the hidden treasure. And of course, you know what happened. As soon as Kamala and her husband had gone, the thief started digging the ground. They dug and dug and dug all night long until it looked as if the field had been plowed several times over. When dawn broke, they were tired and disgusted because they had found nothing, not a single piece of gold. They were really disgusted and grumbling over their blistered hands. When Kamala arrived, she was delighted at the success of her plan, delighted that her field had been plowed so well. She hurried to the grain dealer shop. She borrowed some rice to sow in the field, and she promised to pay it back with interest. And so she did, because never was there such a fine crop. She paid back her debts. She kept some rice for her family, and she sold the rest for a lot of gold. When the thieves heard about that, they were furious. They ran to Kamala's house and confronted her. "Give us a share of the harvest money. We dug up the ground for you. You can't deny that." But Kamala laughed at them. "Poof! I told you there was gold in my field, and you tried to steal it. You rascals won't have a penny of it. If you don't give us a share, we'll take it. You'll have to find it first." And she slammed the door on their faces.
Aleydis, thank you very much. Wow. Thank you very much, Aleydis. That's absolutely wonderful story. Also a story from India.
It is.
Did you say it comes from which part of India? Did you say from Punjab?
Punjab, the north of India. Yes, Punjab.
Fantastic. All inspired by this beautiful wooden bowl from here at the Royal Albert Memorial Museum. Thank you for listening online. Feel free to add your comments. Did you guess, like Chris did here in the audience live, that there was gold buried under the land? Absolutely fabulous. Aleydis, thank you so much for being part of this project.
Thank you for including me. Thank you. Such a great experience.
Okay. All right then, Aleydis, see you soon.
See you soon, David. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Have a nice evening. Bye.
Can you hear the applause here in the room?
I can. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
The trees, I can't buy the deepest seas, but it don't matter, 'cause they're there for free.